All right, moving on to section 2 in chapter 9. This statement is going to be the statement of change in owner's equity. I would say of the 3 statements, it is not difficult, but is the most difficult. We're going to look at it to see what's happened to the owner's account, the capital account, over the accounting period. And so the definition of the statement is changes in the owner's capital account as a result of business transactions. So over the accounting period, we've had investments, we've had withdrawals, we've had a net income, we've had a net loss. And so how does the capital account look at the end of the period? So we're going to first start off with the heading. It's going to be the same heading as all statements: who, what, and when. The third line is I would say the one that's, a little different. It's just like the income statement. It's for the month or the time period ended the last day of the month. So this one's a little trickier. This one, we're going to use 3 pieces of information to create this statement. We need the information from the worksheet. We need the information from the income statement. That's why it's done first. And then we need to look at the owner's capital account in the general ledger to see what's happened during the month and what we've posted there. So again, not difficult, but just the most difficult of the 3 because you have to be looking in a bunch of places. So if we open up this statement of change, make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. We have our who, what, when, so our business name, statement of change in owner's equity, kind of a long title, and then exactly like the income statement in that we're going to say for the month ended in the last day of the month. Okay, so we're going to start off with beginning capital. So what was our capital at the beginning of the month? And in this case, they just started the business, so it was 0, which is a little bit weird. That only happens one time. Again, though, this is a subtotal column. This is a total column. So the beginning capital always goes on the far right, and the last part, the ending capital, always goes on the far right. So since this is 0, we're just going to move on. And then the statement is divided up into what to add to capital and what to subtract from capital. So we started the business and we had to have made an investment. So the investment by the owner was $25,400. Where in the heck would I find that? You would find that in the ledger account of the capital. And we'll do some examples like this. And then what are the 2 things that increase capital? Investments and net income. What are the 2 things that decrease capital? Withdrawals and a net loss. So we had an investment and we had a net income. So since we're going to need to add those 2 up, they're going to appear in the subtotal column. Okay, we're going to draw a line, and then we're going to have something like total increases to capital. And we're going to do a formula and add these 2 together. Okay, so this number is coming from the ledger, capital ledger, and this number is coming from the income statement. Now, they have the word subtotal here because in most cases we would add the beginning capital to any total increases. So in this case, we're just going to bring that number down. Then we're going to say less, so we're adding and less the 2 things that could decrease capital. One is withdrawals, and we had withdrawals, and sometimes you don't have any. And then the other thing would be net loss. Well, we didn't have a net loss, we had a net income. So it's only one thing. If we would have a net loss, it would look more like this. We would have withdrawals, we'd have a net loss, and we'd have a total decrease in capital. But since we just have the 1, we're going to put it over in the total column. And then we're going to say ending capital on October 31st, and we're going to put this amount. Okay, so this amount is not what you're going to see on the worksheet. So that's where this is a little confusing because we had to take into effect all 3 of these things: investments, net income, and withdrawals. So this is going to be a new amount. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the book just to make sure that we got all those things. So this is the most important thing: the 2 things that increase capital, the two things that decrease capital. Okay, so compare and contrast. So here we have another example. I like this better because they have a little ledger account for us to see. Let's see if I can make that bigger. Okay, so here on April 1st, they had a balance in their capital account. So that's where we're going to bring that right here and put that at the beginning capital. From the worksheet then, I'm going to look to see, from the same ledger account, did I have any investments? And I did. I had a $1,000 investment. What was my net income or net loss? I'm looking at my worksheet here, and I had a net income of $32.76. Okay, I'm going to add those two together to get the total increase in capital. I'm going to then write that word subtotal, and I'm going to add these two numbers up. Now, the two things that decrease capital are a net loss and withdrawals. Well, we know there wasn't a net loss because we reported a net income on the income statement and on the worksheet. We did have withdrawals. Okay, right here we can see that. So we're going to say less withdrawals, and we're going to subtract that. Here's our new capital, which is kind of interesting because this $27,000 is not what we're reporting on the worksheet. So these are some of the cool things that have happened to capital. And in the next chapter, we're going to actually have to journalize those. So those are kind of the last couple things in this chapter. Here's how a net loss would look. We had investments by the owner. Okay. We did not have a net income. So we're just going to add these two together. There's no subtotal there. So they're going to be over in the total column. And then we had withdrawals and we had a net loss. So notice that these two are in the subtotal because there were two of them. We're now going to say total decreases to capital and put it over here. And now you're going to see that our capital went down quite a bit. So I would say not a difficult statement, just a lot of different variables that could happen on this statement. And we're going to do a bunch of examples so you'll feel more comfortable with it. Okay, that's it for section 2.